Good evening. Once again, it's Monday night. It's 8 p.m. and it's time for the Monday Review Show. This is the show where we discuss all things refereeing and refereeing issues, and including decisions given and some not given. If you'd like to make any comments to the show or ask a question, please, you're more than welcome to do so. There's a little space down there on the right-hand side of your screen where you can leave your messages or ask your questions. And we'll be more than happy to answer those questions. I'm delighted to be joined once again by my regular guest, former Premier League referee, former FIFA referee, former head of the PGMOL in England, which is the Premier League Match Officials Limited, Keith Hackett. Thanks again, Keith, for joining me.
Good evening. How the week passes?
Indeed, it just flies. Now, I was tied up with other issues during the weekend, so I didn't see a lot of the games, but I know a lot happened. I was flicking here and there, just trying to get little pieces of the action. And my goodness, action is the correct word, because in the FA Cup game between Arsenal and Manchester United, there certainly was plenty of that, including a disputed penalty. Yeah. Agree or disagree?
I disagreed with the referee. I think it was, for me, I think there was, maybe I look at Arsenal's Havertz in a slightly different way. I know he he's a player that I'd have on my team, but the problem is, the downside is that he does duck and dive a bit. And I thought the referee bought the actions of this player in moving towards Harry Maguire, the Manchester United player, and then going to ground. And this was almost like head on and a twist and a fall. And the referee, I would have liked him to have been closer to the action. I think I just sort of move and say to referees, proximity to play helps to sell the decision. And if you are drifting, you're open to criticism. So one of the things I looked at was where the referee was positioned. And, I've talked before about this ability to have a dynamic sprint or a sideways movement to get a different viewing angle. This is what he needed to do. You might have lost proximity, but you've then got to get viewing angle. And in refereeing, we don't guess. And I think that he bought this one. I think he felt under pressure. He looked under pressure to me. I mean, he's a mature referee. He's on FIFA. I don't think this was his best game. This is
Andy Madley.
Yeah. I mean, this program's not about hammering referees.
No, and we've said that many times. Yeah.
I mean, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, look, in the 61st minute, Diego Dalot of Manchester United, already on a yellow card, commits a reckless challenge. This referee didn't shirk. He quite rightly issued a second yellow and a red. And at that point, a lot of people were unhappy, and the temperature of the game went up. And when the temperature of the game goes up, you have to rise with it. And that means you take more action. So I think that was the catalyst for the start, that 61st minute challenge and red card. I don't know how the referee reacts in that situation. I don't think he lifted his game. Gabriel scored in the 63rd minute, 2 minutes later. And then in the 69th, we had this penalty incident. And I think he bought it. When journalists say it's controversial, it's controversial.
Yeah. I suppose, to be fair to Andy Madley, and he didn't have the assistance of VAR, he made a decision. I'm talking now about the red card. Unlike the Spurs Liverpool game, where the guy who scored the only goal in the semi-final shouldn't have been on the field at all. Having said that, we must elaborate on it, because the first foul that he got a yellow card for actually wasn't a foul at all.
No.
But be that as it may, the yellow card was issued, and that shouldn't give the referee an excuse to say, oh, well, I might have made a mistake the first half, I'm not going to give one. I hope they don't do that. I surely hope they don't do that.
Yeah.
He should have been sent off. So what we hear all the time is consistency, or the lack of it, where the one in the Liverpool game where the player should have been sent off, even though the first yellow card may have been a mistake. In this instance, the referee had no hesitation and issued the red card. So a little bit of fair play to him there. But you're right. He from the little clip that I did see, he did seem to buy the push, or the confrontation between Harry and Maguire.
I think that there was little contact. There might have been a little bit of contact with Maguire's arm, but it wasn't that big a deal. I just got the impression that this is the difficulty. What we've seen in refereeing with the introduction of VAR, we've seen an over-reliance on VAR. Well, and when these big calls come and you've no VAR, you're almost looking around thinking, well, come on, mate, you've got to make the decision. And I think when you make big decisions like this to award penalty kicks, KMIs as we refer to, you have to get them right. For me, it wasn't a penalty kick. And
just explain that KMI stands for.
Key major incidents.
All right.
So they're incidents like penalty kicks, like goals, like offsides that can actually turn the result of the game.
Yeah.
So you got it wrong. And for me, I think Havertz should have had a yellow card for an act of simulation. Then in the 70th minute, I'm giving times because it all compacts.
Yeah.
And this is when put your foot on the ball, slow things down, get back your control, make certain that players are aware of your presence. Don't set the car running to have another crash. What you want is you need to take the heat out of the game. I can remember having a game that got a bit heavy, a bit feisty in America. And I said to one player, I said to him, go down injured. He looked at me, I said, just go down. We'll have a rest. And of course, if you had the trainer on, it was 1 minute. They had the ads different. The reality was I was trying to get the temperature of the players to refocus and not carry. So in the 70th minute, Maguire was unhappy. Havertz was unhappy. Then Manuel Ugarte grabbed hold of Havertz, pushes him with his head. So for me, that looks an headbutt.
So red card again.
And what we had was we had a mass confrontation.
Yeah.
So we had all the players on. Look, I think I've talked about it before. I was the guy in the middle at the Battle of Old Trafford between these two teams. When 21 of them came together over nothing, or it felt like nothing. And I stood there thinking to myself, which one do I send off? I got to about 5 or 6 and I thought, this is going to end the evening a bit and they're not going to be happy with me. So I decided to send no one off. But what I did do was I put in a very, very detailed report that led to the disciplinary panel meeting in London, which I attended, which was the first time, the result of that was the first time 2 clubs in the English Premier League or in the English League have been deducted points.
Do you ever regret that, Keith, not having sent somebody off?
Well, I at that particular time, and I examined it on a number of occasions, I probably did the wrong thing because I saw suddenly a blow up and I went diving in.
Yeah.
So I was in the middle of it.
We don't do it anymore. Getting in the middle like a
I was in the middle of it.
Referee,
pushing and stopping it and blowing the whistle and doing everything. Of course, you miss everything.
Yeah.
You miss it.
Yeah.
So it was really from that decision that I then said, right, okay, we have to have, some years later, by the way, we have to have a criteria of dealing with mass confrontation. It's simple. So as the referee, you don't pile in. You blow the whistle like mad. Your assistant referee, close to the mass confrontation, comes on. He's straight on the field of play and he's making notes of what's happening. The other guy, closest to the technical area, ensures that nobody comes in onto the field from the technical area, moves towards the event, clearly looking at the event. So once you've calmed it down, the referee now issues his red cards. He then follows up by asking his 2 assistants, have you any more reds? Have I missed anybody? And if you have, as Howard Webb did in the Carling Cup final, having sent 2 players off from the mass confrontation, he followed the process very clearly and carefully, asked the assistant, and the assistant informed him that a player had committed a red card, so he went. And then finally, you do your yellow cards. But if you have a mass confrontation where you don't see and there isn't a recognised red card offence, right, you find 2 yellows. You do not leave a mass confrontation without reinforcing your control by cautioning a player from each side. There you go. I think I've answered that fairly.
What is the most, just going off the beaten track a little bit, what's the most red cards you've given in a single game? Can you remember?
Yeah, I can. 3 in 1-8. And I'll tell you, this game was in Guadalajara. And it was, I think it was Brazil versus Holland.
Guadalajara, not the quietest place in the world to go.
No, in Mexico.
Yeah.
And so what we had was we had two players fighting. By that I mean Dutch players thinking they were going to get away with it. So off they went, and then one swung a punch in my direction.
Oh wow!
And he went.
Oh wow!
And so 3, and that all happened in about 8 at the 89th minute of the game. And that
I gave 4 in one game here.
Yeah, and that resulted in Mr. Blatter coming into my dressing room after the game.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, oh dear, complimenting me on my performance. And at that point, we were, I think, coming towards the end of the competition. At that point, he said to me, you will get one of the top 3 games, Mr. Hackett, either a semi-final or a final. Left the room, that was it. A bit later on, he did say I would get the final, but that changed because West Germany and Brazil came together, and Mr. Havelange wanted me to referee that particular game. So my I was told many years afterwards.
Lots of politics, isn't there, in that?
Yeah,
But,
absolutely. So I think that's the thing. The other thing I want to mention, if I may, and that is the FA Cup this weekend, third round. Something that, you know, the FA Cup is massive. It's been spoiled by the FA.
Yeah.
No replays. So here's a club like Tamworth.
Yeah.
Tamworth draw. It eventually goes to extra time. You know, in the past, that would be a draw, no extra time, and Tamworth would now be facing this week or next week a game with Spurs that would get them over £1 million. So
a lot of money for a small club.
Yeah, I mean, I just think taking away the replays, it's the dominance of the top clubs. Peter Banks was the referee. And let me tell you, before it kicked off, I was banging the table. The law is quite specific on colours. There are five colours. There are 5 colours when you play football. Each team has to be distinguished against each other.
Sure.
The goalkeepers against the teams and each other, and the referee. 5 colours. So what did you have? You had the Tamworth goalkeeper, who, by the way, had a terrific match, made some wonderful saves, wearing yellow. And there was Mr. Banks up and down in his yellow shirt. And I'm thinking, this is an FA competition. The Football Association are members of the IFAB. They write the laws of the game. The laws of the game are quite specific. And here we have, in our Premier Cup competition in England, a law being broken before the whistle is blown. And I'm not being pedantic here. I'm just saying, look, if you start the game, start it correctly. The other thing was, he started the second half with a player, an attacking player, almost 5 to 6 yards in his opponent's half before the ball is kicked. And I know people might think you're pedantic, but if you're the referee out there that listen to our shows, if I'm the assessor, do not give me the excuse to mark your award of a mark down because, 1, you've got the colours and you haven't done it, and 2, you allow a kick-off to take place that's not in line with law.
Yeah, absolutely. But even in the normal league matches, Keith, players, goalkeepers regularly playing in black. Sometimes the referee is also in black.
Yeah.
So the 5, I honestly, I don't know how many times I've seen games where there were not 5 colours on the pitch.
Yeah.
And surely, I mean, if you're going to the likes of the Premier League teams and even the Championship and lower, perhaps, the professional clubs, it's not that difficult to find out what colours they're going to wear on the day, and then the match officials wear a different colour. You could understand it going to a Sunday morning in the park and you don't know what the play, you know, but even then you check what colours are you wearing, and the referee should always have 3 colours in his bag, minimum.
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
tops.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just, you know, I think in England, the FA, you're restricted. I think the FA at grassroots level are pretty tight in terms of colours of shirts that referees can wear. They're very traditional black. Well,
yeah, well, I think black has always been the colour of the referee.
Yeah,
always.
I mean, I can remember having arguments with Mr. David Ellery. He was chair of the referees committee because I wanted to bring in a shirt that was all black, collar black, cuffs, no cuffs, shirt black, and the FA, who are in charge of the laws of the game, wouldn't allow the PGMOL to introduce that shirt. Did a few years later, but took some convincing.
But what was the reason? Why? And what difference does it make to them? Is this just them, you know, exerting their authority?
Yeah.
It's because I said so, rather than saying what's good for the game. Oh,
Yeah,
Keith, I tell you,
absolutely.
Don't talk to me about soccer politicians. That's what I call them, because
Well,
even Pierluigi Collina now, who was rated the best referee in the world, and he just had to look at you and you cowered back almost. Now he's gone very political as well. I've been reading some of his statements because he's now head of the referees at FIFA.
Yes.
Completely changed.
Yeah.
He's gone on to the political side, and it's almost in a patronizing style instead of staying the way he was, and I'm sure that's what people would have expected from him as a former top ref.
I think genuinely he has the power to change things, and he has the power to change things in a positive manner. But I don't think some of his changes are probably to nod through certain whimsical ideas from football managers or clubs. I mean, I still can't get my head around. I think we might have discussed it last week. 6 seconds is the law, but they're experimenting with 8 seconds. And if it's penalised at 8 seconds, the goalkeeper, it becomes a corner kick. Well, first of all, the 6 second law is in to stop time wasting. We now blow for the award of a corner kick, and we all know the daft scenario corner kicks at the moment. We saw Andy Madley, we've seen them all walking in, giving it, don't do this, and then they come out. And, I even heard a commentator using the word grappling this weekend, which is something that was something that came out in a discussion I had many years ago with Hugh McIlvenney, a Scottish journalist of repute who had a wonderful Scottish accent. And he asked me, Mr. Hackett, what are you doing about grappling? And I said, I don't see that in the laws of the game. I don't see. But then when he explained it, I said, fine, I'm going to be using that word forever.
Because that's what it is. It's almost bloody sumo wrestling sometimes.
Well, it is. It's rugby. It's rugby in the game of football.
Yeah. And it's so repetitious now, and you're waiting for it to happen. And I used to have hair one time, Keith, and I've pulled it all out now in frustration. That the same old scenario, they go in, they talk to the players, they're no sooner, not even 3 or 4 steps backwards out of and they're at it again.
Well, I mean, you've got that, and you've also got now this, I think, not new phenomena, but it's growing, and that is 3 players on the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Blocking. And therefore, I generally think the lawmakers have got to take a look at that and say, well, what are we going to do? How can we resolve this position? The referee, the goalkeeper's got a job to do. This is unfair. It's unfair impeding. And therefore, the law should cover it. I think the law does cover it. Referees don't enforce it.
Yeah. I mentioned to you, I think in an earlier program some time ago, why don't they bring in a situation whereby players have to stand a meter apart, like they do in a free kick situation? Corner kick, they must not be within a meter of each other until the ball is kicked.
Yeah.
At a corner kick. That would surely solve it. Can I write off to IFAB? Do you think they'll listen?
I think you should. I think you should write to IFAB because I think they should listen. They've got to sort out. Yeah, they've got to sort the nonsense out. I don't know if it's just the English game. I think it tends to be really prevalent in the English Premier League at the moment, and I think it's cascaded down, making life very difficult for grassroots referees.
And so you know why they're doing it, Keith? You know why they're doing it? Because they're getting away with it.
Well, everybody's, I think I get the impression that everybody's laughing at the referee. Yeah. The referee's the scapegoat here because he's going in, having a chat, and they're all going, well, what's that for? And I heard a commentator this week just say, well, why are they going in and chatting? Because it has no effect. Why didn't he just give a free kick or a penalty kick? And I'm going, yeah, you're right. Do it.
Absolutely. A thing that's going back to players, the run up to the penalty kick. Now, the law says they must keep in a forward motion, but sometimes they're stopped before taking that final kick.
Yeah. I smile at it because the number of players who actually miss I smile every time somebody tries to be clever and they miss. I almost clap because I'm thinking you got what you deserved. I mean, I think these become fashion trends almost in the game of football.
Yeah.
And then when you see somebody actually fluff it big time, you go, there you go.
Yeah, I think
there's no doubt they're very close. And I think the other side of it is what's interesting is when VAR is not prevalent, I think the goalkeeper comes off the line a bit quicker as well.
I bet he does.
I've seen that in the Championship in recent games.
The taking of the penalty kick, each player has his own style, and it's almost as if they're trying to create their own style. Like Salah stands straight and then he goes to the side. Fernandes from United, there's a little hop, skip, and a jump, and they're all trying to do something different. One other thing, Keith, foul throws. My goodness, foul throws.
Yeah,
foot off the ground, ball coming over their head, not being taken properly, and allowed to continue, and the stealing of yards at the throw-in as well.
Yeah,
surely to goodness they can see that.
Well, I mean, the foot and the way the feet are positioned is very much down to the assistant referee. I always used to say, look, you monitor that for me. I think that what we see is I see a lot of one-handed throws.
Yeah,
the body leaning, the one hand. You can pick that up look at the position of the ball on the hands on the ball to begin with, and you'll see that they're a bit like that, and then
hands behind the ball to give it extra. Yeah, indeed.
Having said that, I watched the Tamworth player very closely. There's a Tamworth player. Sorry, I can't remember his name, but he launched the ball from the touchline into the goal area with consummate ease. It was a great tactic, and I watched and I'm thinking, well, what he did was legal. Just had the strength of getting the ball there, but a lot of them one-handed throws, the ball not over the head. Sometimes it's almost dropped in front of the players. Yeah, I think it's just these areas, these small things. It's a little bit, I think sometimes the application of the law should be a bit tighter. Not being over demonstrative, but I'm still arguing about the corner kick. I still see the law where it says the ball's inside the quadrant, and I'm seeing the ball positioned outside the quadrant.
And just for non-referees who are looking in, just to tell them the correct way to take a throw in is that part of both feet must be on or outside the field on the line or outside the field of play. Of course, the lines belong to the field of play or the areas of which they are boundaries. So part of both feet must be on the line or outside, and the ball must be thrown from behind the head and literally released from the top of the head. You can't do that. For those of you who are not familiar with the law. Just touch again, because I had a lot of feedback. What we mentioned last week, Stuart Atwell was the first referee in English football to actually announce the decisions. Did you get any feedback on it?
Yeah, I think generally the feedback I got was what a waste of time, and that was surprisingly from fans inside the stadium. I mean, look, I think the signals are quite clear. For me, I've said it on many occasions. I don't think the communication inside the stadium is good enough. If this is one small step to eventually getting the use of the big screen and the fans being able to listen into what's going on between VAR and referee and forms part of the entertainment, so be it. So I'm for the full transparency. I don't think FIFA are anywhere near there, or the IFAB. I think that they're likely to stop where they're at now, saying you announce it. Just another delaying tactic for me, to be honest.
All right, we just lost contact there, but we're at the end anyway. Many thanks again, Keith.
Pleasure.
For joining me and giving all that very, very useful information. But appreciate we just gone on. Okay, bombed out again. So for you out there for watching, thank you very much, and we'll see you again next Monday, 8 p.m. Till then, bye-bye. God bless. Thank you, Keith.